Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Khalid. But today is Thursday, the 11th of July 2024, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We will begin with the recent actions as far as our security agencies or law enforcement agencies are concerned. We all know about the threats, the terrorist threats that have been circulating around Pakistan since 2022, when the TTP came into power in TTA rather came into power in Afghanistan, and since then we have seen an increase in terror incidents, especially in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Balochistan. Now, of course, we also know that we have a national action plan. We have a very robust armed forces, in fact, and our ministries and our agencies are also quite active so as to thwart all such incidents that are happening, and all those who are behind such incidents as well. In this the context, a top military strategist of the banned TTP, carrying a multi-billion bounty on his head, has been recently eliminated with his second in command in a joint intelligence-based operation in a village on the edge of Peshawar yesterday. This is just a spate of all the IBOs that are happening all across Pakistan to eliminate all such elements or to thwart all such elements that are trying to create havoc within Pakistan. We will be discussing in detail the different aspects of these IBOs and of course the efforts of our armed forces and intelligence agencies in this regard. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the World Population Day that is being observed all across the world, including today. The theme this year is embracing the power of inclusive data towards a resilient and equitable future for all. Since 1987, this day is being observed all across the world today. In 2023, our planet now teems with a staggering 8 billion inhabitants, and this explosive growth is also shining a light on the pressing challenges and opportunities that come with such a rapidly expanding global population, including that in Pakistan. We will be highlighting different aspects of that also with guests related to this field in our second segment. Then we are going to talk about the first International Day of Reflection of Commemoration of the 1995 genocide in Srebrenica. On the 11th of July, this is the first International Day of Reflection and Commemoration of the 1995 genocide that happened in Srebrenica. And 29 years back, the UN and the world failed the people of Srebrenica. Over 8,000 Bosnian Muslims were systematically murdered and their remains buried in mass graves. This was the worst atrocity in Europe since the Second World War. Then we are going to talk about the 23rd death anniversary of Urdu poet Katil Shafai that is being observed today all across Pakistan. His real name was Muhammad Aurangzeb. He was awarded the Pride of Performance in 1994 and he passed on this very day in 2001 in Lahore. Also today is the 23rd death anniversary of ustadsalamatalikhan, who is one of the greatest maestros as far as classical music is concerned. He was born in 1934 in the Hoshiarpur district of Punjab, and he has been given numerous awards, including the Sitara Imtiaz for his services in the field of music. He also passed away on this very day in the year 2001. Let's begin with our lineup for today, and this is with the recent actions by the law enforcement agencies, the vision azmeistehkam, and of course the different incidents that have been happening in different areas of Pakistan to disrupt normal activities in our country, to destabilize Pakistan. But of course Pakistan's armed forces are on the front line of defense and are doing their best through IBOs and other actions to thwart such elements. We've been joined by two guests for this segment. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Dr. Syed Akhtar Shah. He's a former Home Secretary and Inspector General of Police. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us. And in online, we've been joined by Brigadier Retired Rashid Wali Janjua Saab. He's a defense analyst. Brigadier Saab, thank you very much to have joined us as well. We'll begin with you, Dr. Saab. You who understands KP much better than any of us do. What is the whole paradigm of post 2002 attacks that have been engulfing KP through elements that are crossing the border from Afghanistan? If I were to ask you to summarize in a couple of phrases, what would your answer be?
There is no doubt about it that after the withdrawal of the Americans and the NATO, and with the installation of Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan, the soil of Afghanistan, it has become a safe haven for the terrorists, those who have fled over there. And the nucleus of their leadership is over there. And they are now pulling the strings as far as their cells are in Pakistan are concerned, and particularly in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. As a result of that, when we analyze the statistics, there is escalation rather. It's an alarming escalation. And when you compare the pattern and their tactics, now they are only focusing on the security forces. When I say security forces, it includes the army, frontier corps, frontier constabulary and police. So what appears from their tactics and strategy, then once you attack the law enforcing agencies, and if they are at the retreat or either they are in a defensive mode, then what would happen? The area, physical space would be then with them. And once the physical space is with them, then naturally the weight of the state would wither away, it will erode. So from that point of view, it's a challenge. But having said that, the government of Pakistan has realized, and recent meetings, the cabinet meeting, where it was decided that there should be a decisive action against the terrorists, and initiative now have been taken. And recently in Peshawar, high value target,
Abdul
Rahim, he has been brought to the justice. He has been eliminated in encounter. So once you gain successes, the trust of the people would further strengthen in the armed forces and police, and things will, I think, improve.
All right. Brigadier Rashid Wali Janjua Saab, on the, when this commander Abdul Rahim was killed along with two others, there were different statements congratulating the all those who were behind this IBO. And of course, there are so many IBOs that are happening more or less every day, and we don't get to know about them. But our armed forces are on the front line of defense to help us sleep soundly every night, and they are the ones who lay down their lives for the defense of the motherland. How essential is it for us as a nation to recognize the gallantry of our armed forces and also stand as one against all such elements?
This is very important because the armed forces day in and day out in the merged districts, which were called FATA earlier. So they are braving the onslaught of TTP uptick in violence. And we must understand that there is a foundational difference now between what we experienced 2 decades ago and even a decade ago. From 2021, there has been a fundamental change, and that change is that now Afghanistan has become a bastion for TTP, who are the ideological cousins of Afghan interim government, and they get the full support. And unfortunately, external forces have also started fishing in the troubled waters. Indian RAW is very active, and even those who are getting succor from RAW might not know that which proxy is supporting whom, but it's very clear that RAW is supporting this insurgency. And once our interaction with the Afghan interim government takes place, they sometimes tell us that RAW was giving 500 million annually to TTP earlier on, and they claim that they have put a stop to that. But despite all those protestations of positive engagement with Pakistan, the actual ground facts belie. There are training camps in Kunad, Nangarhar, Khost, Paktia, Paktita that are training the suicide bombers, that are organizing TTP. And when I say foundational change, that change is that now TTP, which was on the run, which was a combination of odds and sods, fragmented, has been now united, and they have a centralized organizational structure. Militant groups, over 12 of those, have been brought together and merged into them. And there were militants like Hafiz Gul Bahadur and Tipu Gul from Lucky Marwat, who have joined TTP ranks, and Noor Wali Masood is emerging as a very effective, potent commander with very strong focus on localized operations. And they are no longer going for indiscriminate civilian targets because they experienced that cost them the public sympathy. Now they are going for the armed law enforcement agencies, that is Army, Frontier Corps, Frontier Constabulary, and police, even CTD in the KP province. So this is a very major foundational difference. TTP is stronger. They have 9 regions. They have a centralized organization in which they have an intelligence directorate. They have 9 regions, and they have a council which monitors each shadow region which has been assigned to a head. And now their operations are being orchestrated and better organized from across the border. It is as if somebody is in active support with them. So this is the new, very, very effective threat that we are encountering, and we must understand the difference. Unfortunately, our political leadership, which is busy into internecine political battles, province and the federal government, they are not exactly in concert. So that is not giving the right political direction to this war, and it is the job of the provincial government to garner support for this operation. And the public support is very vital element and one of the principles of war while fighting insurgencies like this. We have experienced this, Abdul Karim's operation against him. We have experienced so many other militants who are falling. Some have been caught, but these will continually keep on happening unless we do not address the root cause. And the root cause is their rejuvenated, centralized structure and a better, effective, charismatic leadership under Noor Wali Masood, a leadership council, use of their media wing known as Omar Media is very, very effective. And they are recruiting people on social media. They are gaining sympathy, and they are causing disaffection amongst the populace.
All right, all right. With such a modus operandi that the TTP is apparently, as per Brigadier Rashid Wali Janjua Sahab, is operating with and gaining strength with, as per Rashid Wali Janjua, why are its activities concentrated in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan? And on a daily basis, we see there are 5 security officers, 3 children have lost their lives in 3 separate incidents, Lucky Marwat, North, South Waziristan. We all know the 24-year-old Captain Muhammad Usama bin Rashid, who was martyred in exchange with militants in North Waziristan as well. That also TTP accepted to be behind it. Then things that are happening in other parts of the country, in Sindh, in Karachi as well. When you look at this as a whole, I'd just like to understand why concentrate themselves towards Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. What is the intention behind it all?
It's a long history. It dates back to 70s. Later on, when Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan, it was again, it borders Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan, and most of their leaders at that time had been studying in different madaris in Akoda Khatak and other madaris which were located inside Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. And those who escaped the rigors of the NATO operations, they fled to Quetta and such areas. But having said that, but initially when 9/11 happened, the terrorism, acts of terrorism started from Karachi, not from here, but it was in Karachi. The American Express, then the Marriott explosions, many other. When the law enforcing agency succeeded to bring them to justice, then they fled away from those areas to Swat and other. These sort of organizations, they are transnational. They have a network. If you take action in one place, they will always flee to another areas. So one of the major reasons, because the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and particularly at that time the tribal areas which are now merged with Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, those were in close proximity with Afghanistan. So it was very easy for such organization to operate over there and cross with ease. So this is one of the reasons.
All right. Brigadier Rashid Wali Janjua, our President, our Prime Minister, while felicitating the armed forces on this latest IBO, say that they will root out the menace of terrorism once and for all. With the vision azmeistehkam in place, do you feel we are moving in the right direction as far as the multi-domain strategy that this vision represents, as well as our previous kinetic operations?
Yes, we are moving in the right direction. But let me say that all these attempts will wither on the vine of expediency that we always show once we announce an operation and we don't follow it up with the action. So there is a need for a complete synergy. One institution at the kinetic level cannot eliminate. It will go regardless. If other institutions do not, support, the army will go ahead. But whether that success would be sustainable, that's a big question. Then we cannot have a Goldilocks approach that we can have a middle way. Either we go the whole hog or we'll stay at defeat, because the entire character of the militancy has changed, as I explained a little earlier. Now it's a threat which is supported by a base from across the border. And the history of insurgencies show us that such insurgencies are not defeated unless the whole nation gets behind that effort. And we need to remain positively engaged with the Afghan interim government and use the plausible deniability if we have to conduct collaborative operations across those bases without beating drums too much. But it is inside our borders that we need to be very, very serious, and we have to remove the whole illegal spectrum of crime also, and border controls have to be improved, and then the whole resourcing of this effort needs to be ramped up, because such operations, they cost a lot, because the TTP is using, there's no dearth of weapons with them. They're using M24 sniper rifles, M4 carbines, M16 accurate rifles, which are served with the thermal imaging devices. So night vision capability is there with TTP, and they are operating with new tactics. They are not using the old tactics. Those resulted in civilian casualties, and now they are getting more precise, focused, and wily. So such a threat has to be dealt with the equal vigor and equal, tactical brilliance. We know precisely what is the threat. There have been, ingresses from across the settled, erstwhile frontier regions of the settled districts also. And Lucky Marwat, Tank, DI Khans, now they are becoming very restive hot spots. And we need to be ramping up our counter-insurgency operations. From intelligence-based operations, we have to go a notch up. And I would call that upscaled version of IBOs. a coordinated operation going for the vacant spaces, denying and squeezing the spaces for the terrorists. And at the same time, through a synergetic national effort, we have to deny them the epistemic spaces, that is the media. Why Omar Media is so active, why its website is not being pulled down, why they are recruiting on social media. Then there is support structure amongst the people. There are sympathizers amongst the population, those who need to be weaned away from them. And the people could only be weaned away once they have assurance that this time around, when the government and the armed forces, they are sanitizing the area, the administrative writ would also be established, and the terrorists and criminals would not be allowed to come back. So this recrudescence of TTP violence that we are experiencing is a consequence of our collective follies, both at administrative level, political level, and law and order agencies level too. So
time to take the right steps and time to take them till the last stage, so that these elements are thwarted once and for all. Thank you very much, Brigadier retired Rashid Wali Janjua Sahab, Defence Analyst, to have joined us, and thank you very much, Dr. Syed Shah Sahab, former Home Secretary and Inspector General of Police as well, to have given us a historic perspective as well, and also give us the reasoning why they are concentrated in certain regions and not in others. Let's hope that A, we are able to thwart all such elements, and B, that Afghanistan also finally understands that it needs to also do the needful, and if nothing else, to repay what we have done with them, with all their millions of refugees that we have also had as guests for decades and decades. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. We'll come with our second segment, but before that, a short break. Stay with us. Now our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the World Population Day. Since the year 1987, this day has been observed all across the world as World Population Day. But since 1987 also, the population of the world has increased. In 2023, our planet now seems to be a staggering 8 billion inhabitants and increasing. When it comes to this region, Pakistan is one of the biggest country, but also one of the countries whose population is increasing manifold with every passing year. What needs to be done? When you look at the theme of this year of the World Population Day, it is embracing the power of inclusive data towards a resilient and equitable future for all. And that could only happen if we use this certain practices that not only benefit our generation but our future generations as well, and can create an environment that is equitable and equally formidable for all classes of Pakistan. That is what we need in order to strengthen Pakistan as a country, as an economy as well. We've been joined by two important guests to talk about that. Let me introduce them to you one by one, and both are in the studios for once. On my right is Dr. Melania or Mela Hidayat. She is International Family Planning Advisor with the UNFPA. Dr. Mela, thank you very much to have joined us, and this is our first interaction. I hope it will be the first of many. Our second guest is Mr. Syed Aziz Rab. He's the CEO of Greenstar Pakistan. Aziz Rab, thank you very much to have joined us. It's also our first face-to-face interaction, at least on television. So thank you very much to have joined us.
Thank you for having me here.
All right, let's begin with you, Mela Hidayat. The Secretary General Antonio Guterres says this year marks the 30th anniversary of the International Conference on the Population and Development Program of Action. He says it must also be the year we resolve to accelerate efforts and investments to turn its promises into a reality. Why hasn't the world been able to make these promises and change them into a reality 30 years down the lane?
Okay, thank you for the question. This is really the heart of the issue that all of us in this world face. So ICPD promises back then in 1994 set a very ambitious goals and promises for the world, for all the member states of the UN, to build their nation to reach the standardized living of the population. So unfortunately, this day, after 30 years, yes, I think we can also show a lot of progress since 1994, but unfortunately, many countries are still facing challenges. So let me share with you some data that relevant to the ICPD plan of action. Like, for example, the maternal health, maternal mortality. Unfortunately, globally, we are still facing high maternal mortality. Like, one mother died every 2 minutes globally. And Pakistan also still faced a problem of this maternal mortality.
But you know what I don't understand, Dr. Mela, is that we are in the year 2024.
Right.
And we are, equipped with all the latest techniques or methodologies, but still the maternal mortality rate hasn't decreased.
Yes.
What would you credit, or, I mean, this is not a word to use, credit, but what is the basic reason behind it?
So one of the reason is political will, political commitments. Leaders changes in these 30 years, commitment changes. So we really need to have an ongoing advocacy, ongoing education to everyone, to managers, to program managers, to political leaders, to stick to the commitment the member states committed back then in 1994. And if I may refer to the today's theme of World Population Day, one of the problem or issue faced by the countries is also having a good quality of data to understand the situation. That's one critical element for you to be able to address the problem, is to understand the problem itself. And if you don't have a good data, you are not informed.
But this is the question. I'll come to you a bit later, because I am seeing Syed Aziz Rab, who's impatient to answer his side of the questions as well. The population of Pakistan, Syed Aziz Rab, is currently estimated at around 240 million. We are experiencing a growth rate of 2.55%. It is projected that Pakistan's population is going to reach 263 million by 2030 and 383 million by 2050. What is being done, Syed Ali Rab, in order to calibrate our ever-growing population with the available resources?
I think you have put the chronological sequence of a lot of things, and it looks pretty loaded, the situation that we are in. Let me take you through the sequence of events that have taken place. The very first element that was done by the government of Pakistan, for example, was the creation of a task force. This task force was created, and which had set out an 8 set of broad recommendations, which included availability of the contraceptive across Pakistan. And the aim was to reduce the fertility rate and eventually being able to regulate the population the way we want. Now, once these recommendations were brought forward to the CCI recommendations to have a greater endorsement, CCI, we had a federal task force and the provincial task force were made. Provincial task force were set up, and the chief ministers of every provinces, they guided and make sure that the recommendations were taken very seriously at the highest level. So the meeting was chaired by the president himself.
All right.
So far, 5 meetings have convened, and the president himself has convened the meeting. So that puts into perspective that is this issue really being taken seriously in Pakistan or not? So yes, they have got a task force. After devolution of power, 18th Amendment, provinces have to be taken on board. So they are on board. Federal and provincial committees have been memoed. Regular meetings are taking place. And President of Pakistan is regularly had been convening these meetings.
Okay.
Now, I think a roadmap has been developed to approach the 2030 goals and commitments that Pakistan has made. A new national narrative, Tawazun, was really derived. And that was absolutely essential, because before that we used to talk about Bacche Doi Acche and Kam Bacche Khushhal Gharana, and government invested a lot of time, and private and sector and the federal and the provincial intelligentsia came together and drew out a narrative which is known as Tawazun. And that seems to be picking up. It has to be unpacked at the provincial level, at the grassroots level. A population action plan was also developed that was aimed at ensuring the contraceptives availability. And I think significant and commendable efforts has been made by the government to have a strategic roadmap and a stage action plan which will help us achieve the commitments of FP 2030. So I think yes, the problem is big, enormous, but CCI recommendation, and the executive leadership, I think we are on that track. The progress is slow, but we are moving in the right direction, I feel.
All right. All right. I'll before there are some other details I'd like to understand also vis-a-vis our youth and its role as well, and what our Prime Minister has also said on this very day. But before that, Dr. Mela, you talked about data. You know, that is something that's very important. What role of data do you, as a family planning advisor, see as far as the global population landscape is concerned? Also, where does Pakistan stand? Because you were going towards that, but I wanted to have a little bit of input from Aziz Rab. But where does Pakistan stand as far as data systems is concerned? Is it up to date? Is it doing the needful? And how can also, there's going to be an upcoming summit of the future that Antonio Guterres referred to. How can that help also to unleash affordable capital for sustainable development? Because this is very important, sustainable development, the SDGs and everything. And of course, all of this also falls under the ambit of the SDGs.
Yeah, so the role of data is really critical in the area of family planning, if, referring to your questions. So if we have a good quality data, we will have a good information of the situation that will help making decision, that will help addressing the problem. And for example, with a good quality of data and strong analysis of data, it will help the decision maker to set a good strategy, good policy, addressing the problem, and estimate the resources that they need to allocate. So that's one area that the data can help in the decision making. Second is to monitor the progress of the program. We have action plan, we have roadmap, we have work plans. But if we don't monitor the implementation of that plan, it won't tell us where are we, whether our intervention is impactful, is making any difference or not. So the monitoring of that progress is important, and this is where the data plays important role in monitoring and evaluation. And if I may comment on the situation in Pakistan, maybe let me refer to our current UNFPA's current work. We have, it's not launched yet, but we have we developed the district ranking on family planning. We use the globally known framework. Ideally, we will need to employ 18 indicators, but we found out that out of those 18 ideal indicators, it's not available in Pakistan. It's only 12 that are available. Yeah, so it shows how even the availability of data is still a problem for Pakistan. And out of 186 districts that we put in the rank, 20 of them we cannot assess, because those 20 districts are new, an expanded district from the previous one, and they don't have any data. And many of the other districts also, even if they have data, the data was outdated. So availability of data, we still have problem here in Pakistan. Quality of data and use of data also. So many decision makers, many program managers do not use the data as it has to be. They don't use data to help them
that is where UNFPA comes in to guide them in the right direction, isn't it? So, Syed Aziz Rab, Prime Minister Muhammad Shehbaz Sharif on this very day talks about the commitment of the country and the government to ensure that every individual, and I'm quoting him, every individual, community and voice from across Pakistan is taken into consideration in our policies and programs. He also talks about data. He says inclusive data enables us to identify the areas where we need to focus our efforts, ranging from healthcare and education to economic opportunities and social protection. We also have a huge bulge of between 10 to 30 years of age, and that also needs to be catered to in the right direction. They also need to be educated in the proper sense, so that tomorrow when they get married, they need to also be responsible as to how to bring their family forward and how to what are the modalities around that as well. How, in your point of view, can healthcare, education, economic opportunities and social protection help us identify focus areas?
I think this is we need to have certain perspective. People who were engaged in the science of managing population or managing, advising, there is a couplet in Urdu. It says, "Mohsin hamare saath bada hadsa hua, hum reh gaye, hamara zamana guzar gaya." While Pakistan remained focused on men and women, the animal out there changed. Now it is youth. 64% of the population of Pakistan comprises of the youth bulge. They speak a different language, they are in a different media, they use completely different connotations. So if we are to use, so that's what the Prime Minister is referring to, the diversity is now even more complex. And when you have 64% youth, plus the population of men and women, it is also about boys and girls. So you have to start with very early. I think just to reconnect everything with what is to be achieved, and I think we have to begin with an end in mind, and what is that end is the government's commitment to the FP 2030 commitments that we have made internationally with respect to population figures, fertility rate, contraceptive prevalence rate. So the good news is that these are aligned with the CCI recommendations completely. They are approved by the federal and the provincial task force. Moving forward, it should be ensured that while we are achieving these priority goals of decreasing the fertility of diverse segment, inclusive of youth, which is now 64%, we need to respect the individual and family. That respect has to be ensured in our agenda.
All right.
Pakistan needs to invest in the desired family size, communication about it. Girls' education and employment have to be, it has to have a multi-sectoral role where child marriages should be discouraged. And in doing so, I think a very important phase, for example, recently Punjab Population Innovation Fund took a wonderful initiative. They engaged Greenstar social marketing in one of their pilot projects, in which they selected 30 universities in Punjab, train the teachers, academia in this, and we are talking about very renowned colleges of Punjab. And these teachers and faculty in turn trained, 600 of them trained on myths and misconceptions about various contraceptives in the youth. So, we need to change we have the narrative, but I think the message and the communication style and the media has to change, because the audience has now changed.
And that is, I think, a very important point. This is the 21st century, and we are, as you said, a bulge of a populace that speaks, thinks and talks differently, and we have to not only cater to them, but all because they are the future of Pakistan, and employ methodologies that they will understand and employ in their lives as well, whether it be in individual or in their marital lives. And I think as far as data is concerned, Dr. Bela, this is also something that Pakistan needs to move towards, because I was just looking at the data with other countries here. Turkey, Iran and Bangladesh have managed to implement successful programs as far as family planning is concerned, but unfortunately Pakistan hasn't been able to employ them, although these three countries that I've just cited are also brotherly Muslim countries. So maybe we need to also move in the right direction, and I hope with the help of the UNFPA and other organizations such as Greenstar as well, Pakistan will and continue to move in the right direction with a bit of more speed and robust attitude, may I add. Thank you very much to both of you to have joined us.
Thank you.
Kindly stay with us till the end of the show. Let's end with our three stories very, very quickly. The first concerns the first International Day of Reflection and Commemoration of the 1995 genocide in Srebrenica. Now, 11th of July marks this first International Day 29 years ago, the UN and the world failed the people of Srebrenica. Over 8,000 Bosnian Muslims were systematically murdered, their remains buried in mass graves. This was the worst atrocity in Europe since the Second World War. Of course, now we have other atrocities also. But today we honor the memory of the victims and stand in solidarity with their survivors. Next, ladies and gentlemen, are two death anniversaries. The first is the 23rd death anniversary of Urdu poet Khalid. Today is his 23rd death anniversary. He was born the 24th of December 1919 in Haripur. His real name Muhammad Aurangzeb, but he adopted, of course, Khalid Shafai, as many poets have, as his pen name. He wrote over 20 collections of poetry and more than 2,500 songs. For films, he was awarded the Pride of Performance and passed away on this very day in 2001 in Lahore. Finally, the 23rd death anniversary of ustadsalamatalikhan, a renowned classical singer, is also being observed. He burst into the classical music scene with his elder brother Nazakat Ali Khan under the guidance of their father Walayat Ali Khan at the tender age of 5 in the year 1977. Pakistan's government awarded him the Pride of Performance. He was also given Sitar Imtiaz for his services in the field of music, and he unfortunately left us for a higher abode on this very day in 2001 in Lahore as well. May their souls rest in eternal peace. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we end today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new stories and segments apparent to you, us in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.